Hello. Trying to make sure I'm on for... Okay, we're getting on Facebook. Okay. We're here in live time. I decided to get more comfortable this time around. So I got my blanket. All right. Hello to those of you who make it live and will watch later. So tonight I want to talk about fawn, freeze, fight, and flight. They're known as the 4 F's in a trauma response. And I've mentioned I have CPTSD, and I definitely experienced all 4 of these at different points in my life throughout my abuse. The ones that I would gravitate towards is definitely fawn and freeze. So fawn is like appease, like you basically do anything that your abuser wants because you feel that that's the safest thing to do in that moment. So you kind of just please them in any way that they want so that you're not hurt. It's absolutely for your safety. That was a go-to for me. Also, freezing. So much freezing in my life that I actually have a ton of guilt about it. And shame. Like, why would I allow the abuse to happen to me? Definitely wasn't cool. And I know that I didn't allow the abuse to happen to me. But sometimes it's hard to not believe that. So, for instance, I'll get into a little bit about my children's father. There was a ton of abuse throughout the entire relationship. We were together for 7 years, and in the very beginning of it, thank you. I have come so far. I appreciate that, Jamie. In the beginning of the relationship with my children's father, I had no idea that I was fawning, but I absolutely was. And then once I started to see the abuse, I continued fawning. And then when it got to become extremely abusive, I would freeze. And so I'll get into like the most recent circumstance that took place, and that was when we bought a house. So we weren't even living in the house for a full I guess technically it was 6 months because he was arrested on the 6 months that we lived here. So I guess we made it to 6 months living in the home, but we didn't make it even a couple of weeks living in the home before there was a significant amount of abuse. Now, I had mentioned in a couple of my other lives that the abuse would kind of gradually get worse. It was pretty bad, and then it'd get like really, really bad. And my children's father, like, there was a lot of verbal abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse. I didn't even know that this was real, but spiritual abuse, you know, I would be mocked because I have a relationship with God, or if I wanted to go to church, or I mentioned I listened to K-Love, and, you know, if I wanted to listen to my K-Love radio station, you know, he would just belittle me. And so I recently found out, like over a year ago, that spiritual abuse is real. I definitely underwent financial abuse. I mentioned sexual abuse. So the physical abuse would be bad, and then it would get so bad. So ultimately, when he ended up getting arrested, he was convicted of strangulation and suffocation. And the night that he got arrested, yeah, K-Love's the best. The night that he got arrested, that was his third time strangling me and suffocating me. The first time he did it was about a month before he got arrested. And the first time he did it, he was utterly shocked that he had done it. Like, he had done other things to me, but the first time that he actually strangled me, he was doing it, and then he stopped and he was like, I can't believe I just did that. And he was disgusted in himself. And he's like, I'm never going to do that again. And so I was frozen, like, in time. I could not believe that that just happened, and that I did nothing. Like, I literally I was standing up and he grabbed my neck and I just froze. Like, and then he let go. And that's when he was disgusted with himself and he couldn't believe he did it. And I could not even comprehend what just happened. And I was utterly shocked that he just did that too. And then he's like, I can't believe I did that. And then I remember just saying, you have to go. Like, you need to leave. And so he did leave. I think he went to his mom's house and slept there that night. And I just did not know what to do. Like, I was in just such belief that that just happened. Like, such disbelief that that just happened. And then he ended up coming back, like, probably within the same, like, within 24 hours, he came back to the house. And, you know, there's a cycle of abuse. So, you know, the situation that's really bad happens. And then they're like, I can't believe, see, with him, it was in the same second he abused me that he was like, I can't believe I just did that. But then when he came back, it was like, you know, he's so sorry, he loves me, he'll never do something like that again. That was basically what our whole relationship was. But he was heavily like, I will never do something like this to you ever again. I can't believe I did that. And I was just, so many emotions going through my head. Like, I don't even know how else to explain. It was just pure confusion. Because I once had love for this person, and I'm so confused because why would somebody who loves me strangle me? And I mentioned in my last video that I really fell in love with the potential of who he could be. So I was like, I know you don't want to strangle me. So why did you? That he meant what he was saying. Yeah, like, I had faith that he meant what he was saying. Yeah, like, that he would never do it again. So I was like, okay, maybe he just, I don't even know what I was trying to convince myself. I really don't. But I was like, okay, maybe he didn't mean it. And maybe he really won't do it again. So, yeah, he obviously came back into the house, and then everything was okay. You know, there would be some emotional and verbal abuse and mental abuse, but honestly, that was just normal for me. Like every day he would curse at me, call me names, like say I was an idiot and I was dumb and so like to me, that was just a regular day. So I didn't even see that is what was happening to me. I just was like, yeah, whatever, he's doing this again. Narcissist feeding off of your light. Yeah, totally. And at the time, I didn't even know how intuitive I was and that I was a light worker or anything. But a lot of people feed off of my energy in that way. Like they're like, oh, I want what she has. And they do it like subconsciously. Like they don't even realize that they're doing it. And I didn't know that I was giving it away. So, it was not healthy whatsoever. But yeah, every day he would just name call me and everything. So I just thought that was normal. I was like, oh, it's just a regular day, you know? So he was definitely still abusing me, but doing it in different ways. And he hadn't strangled me again. So I was just like, it's normal. Like, this is all normal. This is all fine. But then like a couple of weeks went by. We were fighting again. We would fight often because I would be taking care. At that time, I had 2 young kids. My son was 3 and my daughter was 5 months old. And then I was pregnant. That's like a whole nother topic. I hadn't even fully healed after giving birth to my daughter before he was already initiating sexual intercourse with me. And that is where I would fawn. That is where I would just be like, hurry up, get it over with, and whatever. Like, I would just go numb. I guess I would even freeze. Like, half the time when he was doing it to me, it was just like, I feel like the fawning came in because I was like, all right, he'll hurry up and be done, and then at least he's not abusing me. And even though he was sexually abusing me, but like he wasn't angrily, like physically abusing me, and he wasn't emotionally and verbally abusing me at the time. So I was like, just do that, I guess, and then he'll go to bed. So then I can live my life and I can be free. So I can go do my yoga, or I can go watch a TV show in peace because he'll be sleeping. So, but yeah, anyway, obviously I got pregnant with my son. And, so yeah, so when he was strangling me, I was already pregnant with my son. So my third. So yeah, second time comes around, he strangles me. So we were fighting. We were fighting because I was with the kids, taking care of the kids, and all he wanted to do was smoke pot and go be with his friends. And, you know, he would always say he was the breadwinner. Like, he was working and I was doing nothing. And, you know, least I can do is, you know, cook dinner and, clean the house and do the laundry and put his clothes away. And like, he should come home and have a cooked meal, and, you know, he should come home, and if he wants to finish work early and go be with his friends and go get high, then he should be allowed to do that because, you know, he's paying the mortgage. And so we were fighting because I needed to like cook dinner, and I needed him to hold my daughter. I was like, can you just hold your daughter? Dissociation. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm like, can you just hold her so that I can cook? And it was like, even if I had to use the bathroom, like, I'd be like, can you hold her so that I can go to the bathroom? And it was a fight all the time. So yeah, so the second time he goes to strangle me, He does it for longer. So the first time he strangled me, it was for like maybe 5 seconds. And then the second time he strangled me, it was like 10 seconds longer. And he had such evil in his eyes. And again, I was freezing. I was frozen in time. Like, I could not believe that I was just standing there. And like, if he was going to kill me, he was going to kill me. And I was doing nothing to fight back. It's so confusing to even look back at it, because it's like, what was I doing? I don't even know. But, and what's wicked confusing is, at the time I was talking to my family, and I remember calling my sister, telling her he strangled me again, and her being like, you have to do something, like, you have to fight back. And I'm like, I can't. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I can't. Like, I'm just like letting it happen. I don't know what to do. And she's like, well, next time. She's like, next time you have to fight back. And now that I'm away from my family, I'm like, next time? Why are we focusing on that? Why are we, like, what are we doing? I remember talking to my brother-in-law, like her husband, and saying like what was going on. And he was like, you got to get out of there. Like, you got to leave. He was the only one who like spoke to me that way. My sister was like ready to do a therapy. Like, she was like, we got to sit down. Like, and she did. She ended up coming to my house, sitting us both down, and being like, look, like, what's going on here? Like, we gotta, like, as if it was couples counseling or something. I am still baffled by that, because it's like, why are we doing this? So anyway, the second time he strangles me, I was like, you gotta go again. And he ended up moving back to his mom's house for like a solid 2.5 weeks. But the problem is that we kept speaking. So he was still talking to me. We were still texting. He was like, I really miss home. You know, I miss the kids, and I miss, you know, all this stuff. And most of our conversations were sexual. So it was all about that. And I was like, why are you strangling me? Like, what is... The conversations were just... I would try to say to him, like, we have a huge issue here. You know, and I involved his family too, like his brother, his mom. You know, half the time his mom was on the phone while he was strangling me. Like, she would be listening to him abusing me, because I was so scared that I didn't want to call the police. Like, if that makes any sense at all. I still loved him, so I didn't want to get him in trouble. So calling the police was like the last thing on my mind. But I remember I would call his family instead. So like, when he would be abusing me, I would call his brother, or I would call his mom and say like, he's doing it again. And then I don't know what I thought they were going to do. I don't know if I thought they were going to call the police for me, but it was almost like I couldn't call the police. But there were times where I was like, I'm going to call the police. Or there were times when I would try to open up the door and run and go to the neighbors, and he wouldn't allow me outside. Or there were times when I said I was going to call the police or his mom or his brother, and then he would take the phone from me and throw my phone or something so that I couldn't call the police. So it was very confusing. But yeah, so he left for about 2.5 weeks, went to go live with his mom. But my birthday was coming up. My 28th birthday was coming up. And he was talking to my sister, I guess, like, without me knowing. But I guess he was texting with my sister because they were planning a whole birthday party for me. And it was I think it was a surprise party. They were throwing me a surprise party, and then they were having a dinner party and they were planning a whole like dinner party at a restaurant with like my parents and my sister and her kids. And so he was texting with my sister, and I guess they were inviting him, and I didn't know. I kind of had an idea, and I was dreading it because I really didn't want to see him. But anyway, it's my birthday. You know, he's not living at the house. And then we go to the dinner party, and then he shows up, and he's, you know, so dressed up. I think he wore like a button-down shirt, and he had flowers and a birthday card, and my family was like, see, he cares. And, you know, while he was living with his mom, like, he was still paying the mortgage. So I remember texting his brother being like, he cares. It's just domestic violence makes no sense. Like, it is so complicated. I was holding on to hope, even though he strangled me twice. So yeah, he's at the dinner, and I had so many mixed feelings. I was like, what are we doing? But that's what we were doing. So dinner ends. He wants to come back to the house, and he wants to have sex with me. And I'm like, you strangled me twice. Like, you shouldn't even be here. I don't even know why you're here. And he's like, it's my house. Like, I pay the mortgage. Like, even though I'm not living here, like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And so he's like, the least you can do is do this and do that. I'm like, you gotta go. So he left that night. He was not happy about it, but he left that night. Eventually, after my birthday, maybe a couple days later, he decides to move back in. My birthday's September 18th. He moves back in like maybe September 20th, September 21st. He gets arrested the night of September 27th. It was the middle of the night, so it was September 28th. But so the night he gets arrested, I needed to use the bathroom. He was already in the bathroom. I was pregnant. I was 10 weeks pregnant. I was going to the bathroom every 5 seconds. He was in the bathroom. It was like maybe 1:30 in the morning, and I needed to use the bathroom. We had one bathroom, and it was upstairs. And I needed to use the bathroom, so I'm like, can you hurry up? Like, I gotta go pee. And he's like, you have to go pee every 5 seconds. Like, he's so mad. I'm like, well, I'm pregnant. He's like, well, you're always pregnant. I'm like, I wonder why I'm always pregnant. Like, it's like pretty obvious here. What the problem is. And so he's yelling at me, he's cursing at me, he's so calling me every name in the book. Meanwhile, as he's doing all these things to me, I'm still like packing him lunches for work in the morning, and like doing his laundry and doing all the things that he asks of me. So I remember him being like, he's screaming at me. My daughter ends up waking, and I now need to nurse her. So he goes back into the bed, and I need to go nurse my daughter. And I'm like, can you pass me that pillow so that I can nurse her? And he takes the pillow, whacks me in the face with the pillow, which was like a normal for him. Like, I would constantly get whacked in the face with the pillow. And I'm like, why are you... Meanwhile, I'm holding my daughter as he's doing this stuff. And yeah, so he's cursing. I'm like, you know, she's crying. And I'm like, okay, you're waking her up. You're screaming. Like, I just need to nurse her. And so I'm like, can you just go downstairs? So eventually he ends up going downstairs. I nurse her. She falls asleep. And I try to go back to bed. And I'm going through in my head, like, what is his problem? Like, I am just, like, I'm getting hit in the face with pillows. Like, I think I just reached a point where I'm like, I cannot do this to myself anymore. So he's downstairs trying to sleep. It's like 2 a.m. now. He goes to work at 4:30 in the morning. So I go downstairs and I start unpacking his lunch. I'm literally like, no. This is ridiculous. So I start unpacking his lunch, and then he's like, go upstairs. I'm like, no, I'm unpacking your lunch right now. Like, you do not get to speak to me like this. He's like, this is my house, blah, blah, blah. So I go sit on the couch where he's at. And he was not happy. He was like, go back upstairs. And I said, no, you need to apologize. He was not going to apologize, but I don't know what I thought I was going to get out of him. But I'm like, you need to apologize. You cannot treat me like this. So I'm sitting on the edge of the couch. He decides to start kicking me. Now I'm pregnant. He's kicking me in my stomach. He's kicking me off the couch. He's like, get away from me. And so, you know, I go back to this night being like, I should have just left him alone. Like, I remember telling my family, being like, it's all my fault he got arrested. I shouldn't have gone downstairs. I shouldn't have unpacked his lunch. I should have just left him alone. And my family was like, yeah, you know, you should have just left him alone. His family said the same thing to me. You should have just left him alone. So for the longest time, I was like, I should have just left him alone. But it's like, you know what? I'm allowed to have a conversation. And that's, I think, what I don't really know what I was looking for, but I think that's what I was looking for, was a conversation. I think I was looking for an apology. And, you know, in any relationship, I'm pretty sure that that's okay. And it was not okay to him. So I'm on the floor. He's kicking me. He's, you know, I'm pregnant. He's kicking me in my stomach. This is where I froze again. Like, all of a sudden, he's kicking me so much to the point that I'm in the corner of the bedroom. I mean, the living room. I'm in the corner of the living room, and he's just continuously kicking me. And so, for the first time ever, I decided that my life was important. I finally decided, like, no, he's not going to do this to me. So that was the first night ever in 7 years that I ever did anything back. So I started scratching his back. I scratched his back, and he did not like that. Now I have no experience whatsoever with fighting or anything like that, but I felt like it was my fault because for the first time ever, I decided to do something back. And even though it was scratching his back, I was like, no, I'm doing something. So I scratch his back, and he doesn't like it. Now he's standing up, I'm standing up, and he loves it. Like, you see this like thrill in him, and he's like, you want to go? You want to go? Calling me all these names. Like, he's ready. Like, he is squared up. He's ready to like fight me. And I am like, I go back to frozen. Like, I go back to freeze. I'm like, what is he doing? So yeah, it got real bad because now I'm frozen in time. And meanwhile, I'm pregnant, and he just finished kicking me in the stomach multiple times. And, you know, but he lost it. Like, he would admit that he would go black. Like, he was blackout. Like, he doesn't remember anything, really. He lost it. And I was being strangled for longer than I was before. I was being suffocated now. So instead of strangling me with two hands, not only is he doing that, he's holding my neck with one hand, and he's taking the other hand and now covering my mouth because I was screaming. And he didn't want the neighbors. We live by the water, so it's like an echo, basically. So I was being strangled and suffocated at the same time. And I did call his mother. I ended up calling his mother. His mother was on the phone for this entire thing. Thankfully, my neighbors here, they call the police. Somehow he gets outside. I think I think his mom was screaming, like, he's got to get out of the house. Like, you guys have to separate. And he ended up getting his things and getting out of the house. And next thing I know, the police are there. And all I could say to the police was, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming. This was the first time that the police ever responded. And there were multiple different situations that took place well before this house, well before multiple situations that this took place. Like, for some reason, he loved to physically abuse me when I was pregnant. So for all of my pregnancies, I dealt with this, but never, only when I was pregnant with my youngest is when he started strangling me and suffocating me and things like that. So, but yeah, I thanked the police for coming. I didn't even realize it, but I had like a fat lip. I had like marks all over my neck. Like, I didn't even realize, but that stuff would happen regularly. Like, I remember not being able to go to his sister's gender reveal party because I had strangulation marks on my neck. And I remember texting her being like, I can't go. And I didn't tell her because she was pregnant, so I didn't want to involve her in that. So I told his brother and his mom being like, yeah, he strangled me again, so I can't go to the gender reveal party. Like, tell her I'm really sorry, but like, I can't make it. And it's just like, now going back, it's like, what was I doing? You know, like, what? I am just so happy to be out of that because that was my normal. Like, that was my regular life. And now that I'm away from my family wanted to make me do couples counseling with the guy and say, like, next time he strangles you, it's like, are we not the only person who really understood, I think, is my brother-in-law. Everyone else, it didn't make any sense to me. But I'm honestly grateful to be alive. And now he is a convicted felon. He was convicted of strangulation and suffocation, aggravated assault on a pregnant victim, and violating a restraining order. Because that's a whole nother story. But I had a restraining order on him since 2016. And so thankfully I kept the no abuse, which honestly makes no sense because when you have a restraining order and then you get a no abuse order, it's basically saying this person can't abuse you. And it's like, nobody should abuse anyone. So I'm confused as to why we have like paper that says nobody should abuse me. It's just like, shouldn't nobody abuse anyone? I'm so confused here. So I amended the restraining order at one point, I think after I had my daughter, or before I had my daughter. I amended the order from a restraining order no contact to, and obviously he was still having contact with me. But I remember amending it to like, he just can't abuse me. And I remember like telling the judge like, well, I don't want to not talk to him. I just don't want him to abuse me. And they were like, all right, we can make this no abuse order. It's just, that is so backwards. None of that makes any sense. But yeah, thankfully I kept the no abuse order because he ended up being charged with that because he ended up abusing me. So he didn't get bail or anything like that. He was deemed dangerous because of the extent of what he did. I mean, I got, you know, the court says that it would be justice, but honestly, I don't even think that's justice. Because he only served 10 months. You know, he wears a GPS monitor, but he's out now. I have a permanent restraining order, but it's never stopped him before, so, but I'm not scared anymore, so that's why it's like I'm telling my story. He's a convicted felon. Like, his probation officer called me today being like, we're waiting for his DNA. He needs to submit his DNA. It's like, yeah, because he's a convicted felon. Like, did we forget that he strangled me and suffocated me? I mean, he did a million other things. To me, to my children, to other women. He's a criminal. But he's out. So tell me that makes sense. That doesn't make sense. But yeah, I'm looking at some of the comments here. Being like, yeah, I was rationalizing. I was in survival mode. Totally, I was dissociated. That was half the problem. Yeah, this is just half the problem of what I've mentioned tonight. Someone says he's mentally ill. Yeah, I would say so. You stood up for yourself, necessary for your growth. Yeah, I mean, I was proud. I am proud that I did stand up for myself that night. I discovered my worth. Yes, I am important. Thank you. Beyond proud of my progress. You're amazing and strong. Thank you so much. Yeah, justice is... yeah. I mean, I don't even know what justice is. Like, I don't think what happened is justice. He is out there, and he could, it's only a matter of time before he hurts somebody else. I am not his first victim. I am just the first victim who spoke up. He has plenty of other victims out there. Now, I am no longer a victim. I'm a survivor and I'm a thriver, so proud of it. But not everyone that he abused is in that place in their journey right now. So there are others out there. Did they order him to take anger management? So he's taking the Batterers program, which is his second time taking it. Obviously, the first time did nothing for him. The Batterers program is like for abusers, to basically teach them to not abuse people. It's his second time. He was also mandated to take fatherhood program, like to learn how to be a father. His second time. Clearly doesn't know how to do that. And then he was in anger management voluntarily, he says, but he left that. So, yeah, this is why, like, the system makes no sense whatsoever. But I'm checking the time. It's well past 30 minutes. I was getting all into it. I could keep going. So thank you for those who joined. It was a very interactive conversation. And no, I do not need him for fatherhood because he is not a father. He is not a dad. I see him as a sperm donor. And I am so grateful to have my children. My children are beautiful. I love them so much. And that I needed the sperm to make them. And that's it. So, yeah. Good night, D'Angelo. You're a phenomenal woman. Thank you so much. Good night, Jamie. All right. I am signing off. Excited for the next live. Thanks for coming, guys. Take care.